Hey everyone, welcome back to Chicory's Travels.
We're Sean and Julie, and it was actually last month, but we just now got around to making this video. 6 years since we moved out of our house and moved into our RV. So in this video, what we wanted to do is share our lessons learned. And we figured 6 years, we'll share 6 lessons. And then we'll also share a couple of regrets that we have, but only 2 regrets because we don't have as many of those, do we?
No.
But then it seemed like it was going to be really long, so we've decided to make this in 2 parts. So this is part 1. It'll be 3 lessons learned and 1 regret, and then come back next week and we'll have 3 more lessons learned and another regret. So Sean, do you want to just give them our backstory a little bit before we get started?
Sure, we were both in the military for 20 years, and when it was getting close to retirement time, we weren't really sure what we wanted to do as far as living after we retired from the military. We were both used to moving every couple years with the military to a new assignment. So we decided to get an RV in. And on my last assignment, Julie was already retired. And
From the Air Force. When we
right.
say retired, we were retired from the military, but I was actually still working.
And I got assigned to Tampa, Florida. And we couldn't really decide on a place that we both liked to live.
Because we were both we were becoming empty nesters at the same time, and so the house we were leaving, it had 4 bedrooms, a basement, a big living room, the living room that you walk through and don't use. I mean, it was a huge house, really, and we wanted to downsize. So we were house hunting down in Tampa and looking maybe at condos, but we were having problems because our dogs were considered aggressive breeds because we had a Dutch Shepherd and a Chow. So we drove by the campground on base and went.
It was right on the base beach and had a little like bar restaurant there. It was away from the rest of the base. So we that week we went and bought an RV and moved into it.
Yeah. And so this is what I'm going to say for the first lesson learned is don't wait for the stars to perfectly align and everything to be exactly right. Like you have to wait until you retire or you have to wait until this certain milestone, because you might not have to wait. You might be able to find a way to make it work. So Sean said we were going to his last assignment. So that means we were still active duty. So when we first moved into our RV, we were actually knew we were going to be stationary for almost 2 years. But the great thing about it was we could take the RV out on the weekends and we could really get to know it and use all the systems and get used to living small before we actually were traveling full time. So that's just one lesson learned is don't wait for the stars to align. Instead, find out if there's a way that you can make it work for you now. And some people, what they do is they work remotely. As a matter of fact, once Sean did retire from the Air Force, again, it's not retiring from the workforce yet at this point. So he got a remote job also, and we were both able to work remotely. Some people work camp. So there's a lot of different ways if you're not actual retirement age yet where you're drawing your pension or Social Security that you can find ways to make it work.
And also by having it before I retired from the military, we were able to didn't have to hit the road right away. Like we had time to take it out on short trips, figure everything out, make it the way we wanted to.
Get the warranty work done.
Yeah,
when
get all the work done. And it made it a little bit easier of a transition, I think, than just jumping right into full-time traveling. So it worked for us.
And especially for us because we had never even RV'd at all before. We had never had an RV before. So we had never rented one before. So we really had no idea what we were doing. So, you know, if you're thinking about maybe RVing full-time in the future and you're like we were, had never RV'd before, get that RV now, even if you're not going to live in it, and start doing the weekend trips, because I think that made it a lot better once we hit the road, having that familiarity of operating and moving around in and using everything in an RV.
Yeah. What's the second one?
So the second lesson is finding your own travel style. So just like in the first lesson, we said making it work for you. That's really what the second lesson is. When you live in a house, you've heard of this thing called keeping up with the Joneses, where people are trying to make sure their yards is nice or their cars is nice or their decks as nice as all their neighbors. Well, RVers do this too. They call it FOMO, fear of missing out, and they're trying to make their Instagram feed or their Facebook feed as great as everyone else's. And they're spending all this time seeing where everyone else is going and trying to go to as many places as possible in this short amount of time that they're not really savoring the journey, I think. So that's kind of my lesson learned is find your travel pace and find out what works best for you. For example, some people, they're just trying to put these, they get these, you might have seen them before, these sticker maps. A lot of people put them on their slide, and you put a sticker on there when you've been to a state, and people create these rules like, when can you put the sticker there? And some people will say, well, we have to stay the night, or we have to do an activity. We met a couple, you remember that couple we met at MacDill, and they said they had to go to church and golf in a state for them to put a sticker on. Well, we ultimately decided not to get a sticker map. Instead, we have a map that we put push pins in on where we've been. And the reason why is we went to California last year. Here's an example. We spent a month in Long Beach and got to go all down the Southern California coast and really enjoy that beauty. Then we went and spent a month at the central coast of California and got to enjoy that. Then we went and spent 2 weeks up in the Redwoods in the coastal area. And it was gorgeous. But I wouldn't put a California sticker on my map yet because we didn't go to Yosemite. We didn't go to Sequoia. I mean, there's still so much that we haven't done yet, and we're going back to do it again. We're leaving some things on the table, right? So we can go back again.
And another thing is we actually tried about a year and a half ago to travel faster so we could see more. And we ended up just getting exhausted from all the moving. So we knew that that wasn't our style. And so we reverted back and canceled a bunch of plans that we had just so we could go back to our slow pace. So if you try it and don't like it, don't feel like you have to keep up doing it the way you're doing it. It's okay to change and figure it out for yourself.
And if you're not like us and you find yourself totally bored with a whole month somewhere, change it. And the point is to make it what works for you and to be able to see and experience the things that you want to do, and knowing that your time is really not limited. So you can go as slow or as fast as you want, and you can do things in whatever order you want. And you don't have to worry about what anyone else is doing on Instagram or Facebook, because I guarantee you they're only showing the highlight reel anyway.
Yeah. And then our last one for this video is all about budgeting.
Yeah, and don't stop watching now going, ew, budget. Who wants to talk about that? That's boring. It is boring, but it's very important. And again, it's totally personalized. You pick the budget that works for you. Unfortunately, our first 2 years in, we didn't do that. We were both working remotely. And when people would say, like, how much does it cost to travel full time? For us, it cost every dime we made.
Yeah.
And not because it had to, but because that's how we were living. We were making an RV payment, making a truck payment, paying off a Parent Plus student loan, a few little things like that. And then all the rest of the money just went wherever. This tour, that tour, gas, campgrounds, and we weren't really keeping track. And after about 2 years in, we took a look at our debt and we decided, hey, we want to actually pay off our debt, and we want to establish a budget, because a budget is telling your money where you want it to go. And so how much debt did we pay off?
It was like $187,000
in 2 years. And just by creating a budget and saying we're going to spend our money on the things that really matter to us instead of just spending our money, willy-nilly on whatever.
Yeah, and it really comes in handy down the road. You don't really notice anything immediately besides your debt going away, which is great. But we had to have a $12,000 repair done on our RV, and we were able to just pay for that because we budgeted for emergencies like that. And then just recently, with the coronavirus and a new grandchild on the way, we wanted to get a home base where we could plant roots for a little while and get things done and see our grandchild. And also, because of coronavirus, we were just sitting still anyway.
Yeah.
So the timing was perfect. We were able to buy a property where we can come and park and hunker down for a while if we need to.
And park our RV right there. So anytime we're ready to go, we just, like we are now, hop right in the RV and head out on the road. So one thing that we did is we created a course. It's called Full-Time RV Finance, and you can find it at fulltimervfinance.com. And in that course, what we do is we talk about the importance of setting financial goals, because I like to say you can do anything you want, just not everything. And all that means is you prioritize, and you prioritize based on the life you want and the travel style that you want. So we get into goal setting and how to set these financial goals. And then we had to continue working to be able to pay off that debt and achieve those goals. So we give a lot of good examples about how you can still do that even when you're on the road. And then we also have a whole module on budgeting where we get into the nitty-gritty on every single detail on what it costs to RV full time and how to make a budget that you can actually live with. Because I'm telling you, you go to all these blog posts or videos about how much it costs to RV, and they're going to cover fuel and campgrounds and things like that, but they really don't get into all the details. There's a lot more. Like Sean said, maintenance is a big thing. We've actually met people that had to stop right where they were because of a major maintenance thing, get a job until they could earn the money to fix it and then be able to travel again. So, you know, we get into all those things. And then we also share a lot of money saving strategies that once we decided we were going to be smart about money, we developed over time. So you can check that out at fulltimervfinance.com if you're interested.
And, you know, we teach the stuff that we did in that course. So we went from having a fairly negative net worth to now having a decent positive net worth. So everything we talk about in that course is stuff that we actually did while we were RVing full time. So it's entirely possible. It just takes some work and dedication on your part. And now for the one regret in this video.
And this kind of comes back to budgeting, because one thing that we were spending a lot of money on, in fact, $300 a month, right? Was storage. Because when we first moved into the RV full time, I was a little nervous and wasn't quite sure if I was going to like it. So we put all of our stuff in storage. We did a little bit of downsizing, but not a lot. And remember, I said we had a fairly large house before. So we had two of the largest storage pods. We had those storage pods that they make. And we were spending $300 a month for that. And what we should have done after that first year, when I knew, hey, we're going to be doing this for a while, is downsize. But instead, we waited, I think, 2.5 years. Then we finally did downsize the storage unit, and we got down to one of the smallest storage units that they have, and that allowed us to keep some things of sentimental value. If it was up to Sean, we probably would have had no storage unit at all. Yeah, but we compromised on the one small one, and that made a big difference. So that's one thing also I would say is when you're downsizing, start doing that early. Don't wait, and then you won't have so much stuff. And since then, I've talked to someone, and I loved this idea. She said what they did is, even though they lived in this large house, they moved into one of the smaller bedrooms from the master bedroom. And you know how they have a smaller closet, right, in your spare room? So then they started downsizing their clothes to only fit in that spare room closet. And then when they were in the rest of the house, they only used, if they had that extra living room or a game room or a basement, they quit using that. And so they started moving all their belongings that they thought they would want into just some rooms of the house that they were using. I thought that was a great way to kind of gradually do downsizing.
And it's funny because when we first started, like Julie said, we had these two big storage units and we never visited them or took anything out of them. And now, you know, it's been 6 years and we live a very minimalist lifestyle. After living in a now we have a 30-foot Arctic Fox. After moving into that and being, getting comfortable in that small space, we don't need as much stuff and we're perfectly happy. So that can help you also with your budget because you
Mm-hmm.
find that you don't need everything that you thought you needed. So it's very, very helpful. And I think that is a benefit of the full-time RV lifestyle is you learn to live with less.
Yeah, definitely. Now, he did mention also that we have downsized our RV. We started off with a 44-foot fifth wheel, and now we have a 30-foot fifth wheel. So, in the next video next week, part 2, we're going to talk a little bit about that RV purchasing process and the things we did right and the things we did wrong, because we did a lot of things wrong. We'll share our other 3 lessons learned and 1 more regret. But real quick before we go, I just want to point out that these t-shirts, oh, there it is. The t-shirts that we're wearing are Beyond the Wheel is what it says on them. And that's because Sean has a podcast, Beyond the Wheel, that he does with another full-time RVer. You can check it out on any of the podcasting formats. Like, so if you have an iPhone, or what are some of the others, Stitcher, Google Play, or you can go to their website, beyondthewheelpodcast.com, and tell them a little bit about what you guys cover in your podcast.
So we like to cover the behind the scenes kind of the whole RV industry. So we talk to campgrounds, we talk to manufacturers, we talk to product developers, and we kind of learn why they came up with this product or why they manufacture this way or what's unique about their campground and how they started it and what the process is like. So it's kind of a get to know your RV products behind the scenes kind of thing. And my co-host Kenny from Moving Forward Adventures is a lot more entertaining than me. So it's a fun podcast to do, and we have a great time, and we learn a tremendous amount. And we always have giveaways. So if you tune in or go to our website, you'll see what the latest giveaway is, and you can sign up to get that giveaway prize.
So thanks for joining us. I hope that we answered some of your questions. And like I said, stay tuned next week and we'll hopefully do some more valuable lessons for you. In the meantime, if you do have questions, feel free to pop them down in the comments below and we'll answer them.
Thanks, everyone, and safe travels.